got one that can see.
Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Nada. Any guy that's spent any time on the online dating scene, Plenty of Fish, OkCupid, or whatever it may be, can attest to the level of hypergamy on these sites. Now, I don't believe that it's much different today in so-called in real life dating situations because I've experienced it on both formats, whether it be online or not. But I do think that in the past that wasn't so much so the case. So I just want to do a real quick video today on an observation I had about what I like to call dating limbo. And what I mean by that is a lot of guys can attest to that have been on these dating sites before. It seems like 3 or 4 years can go by. You can be on these things off and on, and it's always the same women on there, the same women in the same area. And some of these women are attractive, so them being unattractive or just not desirable by men is sort of unaccounted for in that regard. And what dating limbo really amounts to is it's just a really nice way of uh, referring to the cock carousel. These women get on these sites for the validation, and they get on there as well to see what's out there. And many of them, I mean, it's quite obvious what they're doing, just seeing what's out there, trying to see, you know, what the best prize they can pull, um, is on these sites. And so that's why they remain on there year in and year out. And I feel like that exists too a lot in the real life dating scene offline. You have these girls that we all know that it's been 3 years since our last relationship, and they're attractive, or they're at least dateable women, and they just never it's been 3 years, 4 years, whatever since their last committed relationship, and maybe they go on some dates, or maybe they talk to a guy here and there, and they might even talk to 2 or 3 different guys, but maybe they talk to one guy for a few weeks or a few months, but they never quite actually get to the point where they're actually committed to anything with the guy. And again, it goes back to the bigger, better deal scenario. I say all that to say this, it's not just the young women that are doing this either. A lot of times on these dating sites, you see a lot of younger women, early 20s, they're clearly on there for the validation, or they're on there to see, um, maybe they're on there just to have a lot of different encounters with a lot of different guys. And so somebody pointed out that this dating limbo creates competition for these women between other guys, but in the reality of things, there really is no competition, save the competition of women wanting 80% of the women wanting 20% of the top guys. So my experience, you know, and it doesn't really matter whether it's the paid sites or the non-paid sites. In fact, I can attest from experience that the paid sites aren't any better, and in fact are maybe even worse because you're paying for the site. I've had more success in terms of meeting women and going out on dates, and things leading to one thing leading to another on the free sites. Uh, and honestly, the quality of women might be slightly better on the paid site, but really it's not that much better. And a lot of the quality depends on the area that you're in. But really, the paid sites, what it comes down to is the women are actually more hypergamous on there because they're paying also, and so they feel because that that they're paying, that they ought to get top draw for their dime. So I only ever went on one date with a girl from a paid site, and I mean it didn't end up going anywhere in comparison to girls that I had met off of just the regular sites. But the point I wanted to make with it was, I mean, paid or not paid, they're all a waste of time. Uh, in fact, I had met this one girl. She was 34 at the time, and so it's been maybe a year or two, so she'd be about 35, 36 now. And for her age, she was okay looking, um, but you could definitely tell that there was a reason she had made it to be in her 30s and she still wasn't married. And it had nothing to do with really her having a, terrible personality, or her not being attractive, but it had everything to do with her level of hypergamy. And it might be interesting to note too that this woman was half Asian. Her mother was Korean, father was American. So, that dispels the myth that somehow Asian women or foreign women are different. I mean, she was born here, so she was. Um, I mean, honestly, aside from the fact that she came from a biracial background, she more or less sounded and acted and thought like your typical California Valley girl. And I think she was from Utah. But the point being is there wasn't any difference. And any guy that's been in the military and spent any time in Korea can tell you about the juicy girls in Korea and the level of materialism and hypergamy that exists over there. So I had met this girl, and it seemed like it might be, this is towards, this was again towards a time in my life where I was just like, all right, I'm going to give it one more credible shot here. So I was, I mean, I was fully aware of female nature and the red pill and all that, but I was going to give it one more shot. And one night at work, I just had this epiphany. I had this realization that, and like I said, things had been going pretty good. We hadn't actually met yet, but things had been going good. She was, seemingly interested in everything else. And the realization was, you know, this is going to go one of two ways. One, we're going to meet, and it's just not going to work out. I'm not going to be what she's looking for or whatever, which, to have made it to be 34 at that time and still not settled down, in my mind screamed, a very hypergamous woman. Or the other situation could be is that we meet, things go well for a while, but ultimately this is going to be somebody that I'm just never really going to be able to be myself with. I'm never going to be able to really trust. I'm never going to be able to be vulnerable around. I mean, it was that realization of, even if this works out, at best, it may last a few months, a few years. Maybe we'll get married or whatever, but even then, that's not a promise of anything, because it could end at any moment in divorce. And it goes back to the whole saying, she was never really yours, it was just your turn. And like I said, the starkest reality of that was this realization that even if it works out and we end up dating or whatever, and we put a label on it, I'm basically going to be supporting this person, taking them out on dates, taking care of them emotionally and financially, but they're never going to reciprocate that in the same way that I'm giving it to them. I again, it goes. You can never show any vulnerability. Hold frame, bro. Hold frame. And it just realized how useless the pursuit of it was. I mean, we ended up meeting, and it seemed like it went okay. I mean, we went to dinner or whatever, and then went and talked at a park later. And then, strangely enough, like, the conversation began to, once we went our separate ways, the conversation began to die down. There was less texting and calling. Um, she had gotten into a car wreck shortly after that, and she tried to blame it on that, but I mean, I didn't see the correlation between um, that happening and all of a sudden this disinterest from her. And again, she wasn't the most attractive girl that I'd ever seen, or even the most attractive girl I'd ever dated. For her age, she was okay, but it just goes back to that level of pickiness, Um, I'd met another girl shortly after coming out of the military. Same situation. Only this girl, the previous girl, she had a roommate, and she had an okay job. This girl was working two jobs, living at home, in her 30s. I think she was like 31 or 32, and she was okay looking. I mean, she was a little on the chubby side, but she had kind of a youthful look, nice skin, nice hair. Wasn't hideous, I mean, was attractive enough. But yet in her 30s, living at home, didn't come from the greatest family background, but she felt that she could be extremely picky. And, it's just kind of like, well, if these kind of women are being this way, and again, it goes back to what I refer to as the dating limbo, where it's like I'm just going to hang back to the last possible second and see, if this is my best option. Okay, that guy was good. That guy was near perfect. Let's see if I can land a perfect guy. And then once they land the perfect guy, it's like, okay, let's see if I can land the better than perfect guy. So, again, as MGTOW, we don't really waste our time with the dating scene or any of that to begin with. But I just wanted to share that because like I said, I think that the strongest thing out of that was this epiphany of even if I win this person or I get this relationship or whatever, it's still useless. I mean, I'm still just as lonely and just as on my own as I would be, except now I'm paying out the nose for dates and spending my time with this person and having to constantly keep up this facade of frame and this, that, and the other. Whereas it's just easier just to live my life and be who I want to be and worry about myself and than to play the whole game. But it's not just young women. No, that was the whole thing. Is it's like you have this thing now where sure there are a lot of women in their 30s, approaching their 30s, that are willing to settle for beta bucks. And sometimes that works out for the guy, and then sometimes it ends in divorce, and the woman gets cash and prizes, and oftentimes that's by design. But um, a lot of women are so deluded now by the media and society and the "you go girl" um, culture, and they've been taught from such an early age that they can have their cake and eat it too, that they're holding out even longer and even more into their 30s. And by that time they have no bargaining power. Their S&V's out the window. Nobody wants to have anything to do with them on any kind of serious level other than a one night stand maybe. Um, but yet it's a phenomenon I've noticed, and so that's why you see the same women on these sites year after year. And that's also my theory why Plenty of Fish changed their dating ages. Where if you're a certain age male, you can't contact women who are younger than you, because I think a lot of the single moms and older women hitting and approaching the wall in there were mad that these guys were not showing them any attention. And so to even the playing field, it seems like they changed their age restriction for that reason, because it's a lot of these single moms and women approaching the wall and women that have splatted into the wall that are the ones that are actually paying for the upgrade features and everything else. So that being said, there's an interesting video out there that compares the dating scene, the rise of MGTOW, to the economic situation that's going on and has been going on the past 8 years or so. Check it out. It's an interesting idea. I'd like to do more tie-in videos to that to those sort of things. But we've run out of time for this particular broadcast. As always, you're free to do as you're told. This has been John Nada and the Days of Thunder.